Hello, good afternoon. Thank you to all the viewers that are watching today. We are Pink Mike Leo Confessions. We have an awesome episode for you guys today. It's been a while, so I'm just happy to see everyone again. Today, we are talking about the benefits of yoga and mindfulness with Instructor and K through 12 school psychologist Jessica Scharf, who you'll hear from in a minute. She is wonderful. She has a lot of experience for us today. So for all you parents that are watching, you're going to want to tune into this because it's really, really interesting. So as we all know, we are transitioning now into going to back in person. I know personally, I went to court this morning and I thought, wow, I'm actually in court. This is weird. So things are going in person more than ever. And the kids, they're heading back to school. So they have packed schedules. They have school obligations, sporting events. And so everything's really hectic. So this week, we're talking about a lot of stuff, mindfulness, your children, and Jessica Sharp's going to sit with us today, talk a little bit more about what it's like to be for kids in this environment. What can parents be doing to do more? There's a lot we're going to talk about. So as you all know, I'm Stephanie Garza-Stoney. I'm the attorney, principal attorney at Garza's Law Firm, where we handle real estate transactions, probate matters, and estate planning. Really, what does that mean? We help you prepare for the unexpected and in the event that there's an unexpected absence, especially for our kids. And by the way, we speak Spanish in case you're looking for that service as well. So I'm here with my good friend, Jessica Scharf. She's a certified yoga teacher and school psychologist in Chicago suburbs. She specializes in K through 12 mindfulness and self-care for educators. She earned her certificate of being a yoga instructor in St. Louis through Yoga Buzz, which seems pretty cool. And she teaches seasonal outdoor yoga classes, and she's exceptional. So Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today and joining us. Tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Yes, Stephanie, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. And before I tell you a little bit about myself, I thought I'd set the space today talking about mindfulness. And let's all just take a second to recenter ourselves. You know, life is busy, just like you said. So take a second wherever you are, and I'm going to invite you to, if you're seated, you can be seated or laying down, wherever the viewers are, but take a second to notice how your feet are on the ground, or your soles of the feet touching the floor. You can close your eyes if you want, or bring your gaze down towards the tops of your legs or your knees. And just take 3 deep breaths. Inhaling and holding it up for a second, and exhale. Maybe count to 5 or 6 as you fully exhale. And then inhale again, feeling your belly grow big like a balloon. And exhale, release. And try one more on your own. And kind of let go of anything that might have happened before this or anything you might have coming after this. And exhale, release, and let it all go. Okay, so that was just a little tiny taste. It's exactly what everybody needed, right? Midday on a busy work day. But anyways, yeah, so my name is Jessica Scharf. I am a certified school psychologist and a certified yoga instructor in the greater Chicago area. My yoga practice started in St. Louis, but I wrote this on my website as well, that we relocated to the Chicago area to be closer to family and for work opportunities. And just a little bit about myself and how I kind of ended up where I am today. I have a background in psychology, specialized in school psychology or in education. And then after that, backing up, you know, in high school and in college, I've just been a person of movement my entire life. And I wanted to incorporate that into my career. And I thought, as an educator, bringing that into the schools would be such a positive impact, bringing it to students and families, as well as outside of the school realm, bringing it to parents and adults who are just trying to carve out a little bit of time for themselves. So I'm a huge advocate for self-care, hashtag self-care. And
You are a vegan.
yeah, and I'm just all about living with intention, and it's been really nice. Fortunately, personally in my own family, we had those routines, and the mindfulness and living intentionally already set up before the pandemic. And so it kind of just made like a little wave, but ultimately I think like now with the pandemic and coming out, re-entry back into the world, I think people are really paying attention to, you know, what routines are in my day. But anyways, to circle back, yeah, so I'm a K through 12 school psychologist, and now I'm bringing those outdoor classes to the greater Chicago area.
That's awesome. Well, it's so interesting that you are doing both things at the same time because, well, first of all, let me thank you. And I know the viewers are going to thank you for doing that like breathing session because I know I can speak for a lot of the viewers where we all have like hectic lives or like things that really like throw us off our balance, whether that's a bad moment at work or, you know, something in your personal life or your kid did something and it like throws off your whole day. So like, it's really nice to like kind of have like a tactic or like a plan for when that happens because it's so easy to just like bottle it up inside. So we'll talk a lot about that today, but I've experienced that. I'm sure a lot of viewers have. So thank you for sharing that because that breathing technique stuff, that is so like that is such a underrated, I think, thing to do when something goes wrong.
Yes, it's honestly, I mean, it's something that we've all had our whole lives. And I think just with the speed of our world today, I think people are easily forgetting to slow down. And it's just something that everybody needs, and we're forgetting to practice it. And so one of the things I saw recently was just, you know, the mindfulness piece is easy. It's the showing up and carving out time that's the hard part. Yep. And I think just life is moving too fast. And so, you know, there's one of the nice parts about the pandemic was that it really forced people to slow down and, you know, find that time with family, loved ones, whatnot, but also taking that second to reflect, look inward, or start a mindfulness practice. But hey, better late than never. And it's if you're a viewer out there who's completely new to this, you can start any day. Just starting is what matters. So
yeah. And we'll talk about that because I think a lot of people have this idea that yoga is just for like certain types of people. I don't know how to say that without sounding disrespectful.
Just
but
like super flexible and bendy and all that.
Yeah, like maybe not like an athlete, like someone who's an athlete maybe won't do that, or like something like that. You know, it's not true though because yoga is really hard, and actually I think has a lot to do with your mindfulness, right? Outside of just the physical aspect of yoga. So, kind of transitioning here with the topic. So we talked a lot about the fact that things are going in person. I know certain people are like, yeah, I'm so excited about it, and other people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. This is, you know, it's too soon, or is there a variant? All these other things that are pending in the back of our mind. But, you know, Jess, what are some of the tactics that people could use to like reduce their stress, whether it's in their family or the family unit, or even setting a good example for your kids? I know that's one thing that a lot of parents are concerned with.
Yes. So thank you so much. Wonderful question. I would say, and especially with, you know, we've all felt those waves of uncertainty and not knowing what's coming. Something that I always come to and practice as well as, I'm sorry, as well as what's found in research is focus on what you can control and trying to come back to, you know, if your mind's spinning out of control and you need to just get a grip on something, think about recentering, self-regulation. That's the whole basis around mindfulness, is trying to regulate your mind and your body to be able to get back into work or get back into a conversation with someone, whatever it is. But focusing on that self-regulation piece. One of the tactics I shared with a parent, and she was saying, oh, my kid's just so stressed out. I'll just give you some real life examples. And she said, my kid's just getting so stressed out. And I said, well, have you tried the like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 technique? And I'm not going to name it word for word right now, but it's like, okay, tell me. And she, you know, her child was getting worked up. This is like a 14-year-old. She's stressed out about starting to look at colleges. She is trying to make varsity volleyball, keep her grades up. She's in a friend fight, things like that, like all real things of busy parents.
High school stuff.
Yeah, all real high school stuff. But anyways, I said, well, have you tried the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 technique where, okay, tell me 5 things you can see right now. Just stop and tell me, look around the room, tell me 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 2 things you can feel, or anyways, it goes down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm not saying it perfectly right now, but it brings you back into the present moment is the main thing. And focusing on, that's why people say, come back to the breath, because our minds are often worrying about what we did in the past or what's coming up in the future, instead of taking a second to focus on what can I hear and see right now, and what is my breath doing. And once you regulate that parasympathetic system, your nervous system, everything will fall back into place, hopefully. But trying to just regulate your body and your mind is the basis behind mindfulness, and to get back to work or improve your school performance. There's just a number of benefits. But altogether, I would say take a deep breath. If we're working with younger kids, one thing I did learn, and I always want to share with new parents or parents of young ones, is a lot of times we say, okay, calm down. And I think sometimes parents and educators forget little kids who are learning to talk and communicate, they don't know what calm looks like. And they're just more upset and more upset and more upset. And so I would say, figure out the language that they know, or if they know sign language, if you like to practice sign language with kids who are learning how to talk, you can practice that. I like to say, take a deep breath or breathe. And then I've seen it with my own family members, is if you demonstrate the breath, like you said, setting the good example, model it, and your child, hopefully, typically they should follow. Every child's different, but for most typically developing children, what they've found in research, even with classrooms of kids, is if the teacher participates or if the adult's doing it, the kids are more likely to follow. And so it's monkey see, monkey do. I've seen research and talked to researchers where they say, yeah, I'm doing the activities, and I turn it on, and then I'm grading papers in the background, or I'm checking an email on my phone or my computer, and it's showing less effectiveness, since the kids know, and they little eyes are watching all the time. Parents know. But anyways, they do pick up on if you're actually doing it with them and seeing that authentic moment that you're sharing with them. So I would say, if you have those young eyes, try, as I know you parents always need a break, but if you're able to engage in those moments and those activities, do the best you can to be present with them in doing it, because they will pick up on that, and they will practice more presence as well.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. These are things we don't think about very much. At least, even like monkey see, monkey do. That is interesting, because I would never think that they're more likely to do it as opposed to not do it just because you're not showing it. So that's like pretty powerful stuff, and it probably goes with the theme of a lot of things that kids learn. But positive things, positive things, and it kind of circling back to this technique. So one of the questions that I had about that is that we talk about children and what they can do, or we can do with them. But what about children that like are trying to learn like mindfulness or like breathing, and they're managing the challenges at school, perhaps even conditions like ADHD or ADD, or what if they have that sort of thing on top of trying to learn it? Does that complicate things, or how can parents best handle that?
Yes, thank you so much. Another wonderful question, and honestly, something that I'm so glad you asked, because in my field specifically, so I work with the general education population, but I specialize in working with special education students, or students who have, if there's parents out there who are familiar, parents of students who have 504 plans or IEPs, individual education plans, students who just have very specialized needs and are very unique. But anyways, working with kids with, for example, ADHD, it depends on how it presents. Every child is different. And so that is like first and foremost, is every kid is different. There's not like, I wish there was like a this equals that. However, parents know their kids best. Talking about functioning back in school, and something that I think we as educators have talked about, I haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of parents about it yet, but there has been this wave of educational loss. And that's just something that everybody's kind of coping with right now. I wouldn't worry too much about it because everybody's on that same wavelength. However, when you're working with a kiddo with maybe some attention characteristics or attributes, I would say rule number one is don't force your kid to do anything they don't want to when it comes to the mindfulness and yoga practice. Just keep demonstrating it as much as you can yourself. They will pick up on that. But if you force them to do it, then later on they might not enjoy it at all. Or like once they get older, it's a great coping technique to teach a child of any age, or like now. I discovered this stuff in my late 20s. I wish I knew it when I was their age. But anyways, they I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was going to say, make sure you give the kids the option to. So when I would go into classrooms, we would, announce it. I'd work with the teacher and say, hey, who wants to do yoga today? So if you're with a classroom, if you're an educator out there working with a classroom, I would have a certain, probably about half of the students wanted to participate. And then the other half of the students, they went and did another activity. It was in a different physical space. They went out to the hallway. But the kids who wanted to participate were able to, and successfully, because the last thing you want is a kid that you're forcing to do an activity with. Even I'm imagining if this is like a parent of, 2 or 3 kids, one kid doesn't want to do it. I mean, just imagine being an adult in a class where there's somebody in the back who's talking the whole time because they don't want to be there. And so it's like that, but in your family, they'll throw a fit. They will not cooperate. And so I would just say, keep demonstrating it and allow them to say, okay, you can go do a different activity, but you're going to go read for 10 minutes or something while we practice yoga or mindfulness as a family. Get creative with it. You know what works best for your family, but never force them to do it. I would say also, diagnosis or not, if you've got a kiddo who's got any sort of attention characteristics, talk with the school team about maybe what they're doing in school. And it can be different from child to child. Again, a lot of schools I see are using like Go Noodle videos or movement breaks. Those are awesome. Little kids, probably in like kindergarten, first, second grade, love any type of movement break. Something I saw.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just
Yeah.
explain to the viewers what is it? What is a movement?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like talking in lingo. So the one I was going to say, the one I'm seeing lately that I really like is it'll be like a video on YouTube, and you can probably just type in movement break, but it'll say, okay, do you like, let's say there was a Thanksgiving one, and it was like, okay, do you like mashed potatoes or cranberry sauce? And like half the kids are like, I love mashed potatoes. And the other kids are like yelling cranberry sauce, cranberry sauce. And so they pick what they want, and then the screen switches and it'll say, okay, if you picked sweet potatoes, you have to do running in place for the next 30 seconds. And then the kids who pick cranberry sauce need to do jumping jacks. And so, little kids just love anything to get out of their seat. And then coming from a psychology end of it, anything that has kids making their own choices during the school day and at home, this goes for school and home, anything to promote them making their own choices and taking ownership of, well, I'm not being forced to do this. You gave me 2 options. This is like, a monologue in their head. Well, I had a choice and I chose this one. They take more ownership of it then. And you can I'm such a big advocate for kids making their own choices and them taking ownership in the process of it, because then they're more likely to engage and cooperate. So for like, let's say if you have 2 kids and one of them doesn't want to do yoga, say you do not have to do this. The 3 of us are going to do it, or the 2 of us are going to do it, whoever. But if you don't want to do it, your other choice is you're going to go read your chapter book for the next 15 minutes, and you're going to read it right over there where I can see you. And so just being able to have those conversations with your kids. And it, again, I'm talking from a scope of like, I've worked with 18, 19, 20-year-olds all the way down to like early childhood, kindergarten. So everything is always dependent on how your child presents in terms of characteristics. They could be inattentive type or combined type, or they could be like when we talk about ADHD, typically I think most people are thinking of attention where they're like impulsive, bouncing off the walls. it all depends, but there's all sorts of techniques out there. Some kids want movement breaks. Some kids want a fidget where they can function perfectly fine, but underneath the desks, maybe they're playing with their fidget, or some type of clay with their hands. Some kids really need that. So if any schools out there are not doing fidgets, please allow kids to use their fidgets. And other kids like to do breath work and mindfulness and yoga. Just figure out what works best for your kid, and or your class of students, whoever it is, and just work with them and just try to promote what works best for each individual child.
Well, I love the options because I think sometimes we forget that kids are still learning. They're learning boundaries. They're learning like my mom has like it's kind of like when if your parent makes you eat a food like broccoli.
Yes, I was just thinking of that.
And you keep having to eat it every day at dinner. You're going to hate it by the time you get older because you never really had an option. So that's what I was thinking about when you said option. And that's a great way to at least present it to your kid, because I think sometimes we're talking about different, decisions that they're going to make. Maybe them not doing yoga is a decision in their mind. They're like, I decided not to do this. I decided to do that or something, So kind of, I know we talked about movements, but one of the questions that I had about the movement thing is we're talking about like simple movements, right? Or even like running in place. But what are some like exercises that like anyone can do during the day, whether not even just kids, even adults as well, like to recenter, refocus, and just like reset themselves?
Yes. And when when you said that just now, I was thinking of most of us are, maybe not most of us, but I would say when I imagine this question, I think a lot of us are at a computer or at a desk these days. And so the first thing that came to my mind was chair yoga. Is that something you're familiar with? I can talk a little bit about it. Okay, awesome. So shout out to Yoga Buzz in St. Louis. One of the main principles of their training is accessibility and adaptability. And so with chair yoga, I'm so glad this is something that's like kind of coming up more and more. It's trending, if you will, that if you need a break from your desk, chair yoga is a wonderful practice for giving yourself like a 2, 5, 10-minute break. So that's anything and everything from just taking some simple breaths. That's probably I would say like lowest, output towards like movement. Mm-hmm. Just do exactly what we did a couple minutes ago. Gaze towards the floor, close your eyes, and maybe just take a couple deep breaths. Or you could increase it to relaxing your shoulders, pushing your back all the way into your seat, seeing how your feet feel on the ground. Maybe some head rolls. I like to do this like soft touch to the shoulder. Try to imagine, don't actually do it, but imagine your ear touching your shoulder, but then relaxing your shoulders. And if you have the space, there's just the basic movements of the 6 movements of the spine. You can do those seated too, but I would say if you're able to do the tabletop, so you're on palms and then knees and then opening up the chest and then closing it. But you can also do that seated. So the 6 movements of the spine, opening, closing this way, and then the C curve. So this way, and then twist. And so you can do these all on your seat too. So twisting this way, twisting that way. I'm just doing it for time's sake.
Wait, for this head one, would you go are you pulling it or are you just
So for that one, I would say more of just a touch. And I like to do it without the touch, but sometimes I would say put your hand on the top of your head and then you can it's just there for placement and awareness. I wouldn't pull at all. Okay. But I like to just feel that stretch on the other side of the neck here and maybe take 2 deep breaths wherever you're at with that and then try the other side. I also like to do hands on the tops of your legs and then just slowly. This is a good one for any desk work for all the attorneys out there.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I know a lot of people, again, I was telling you earlier, I've told some of my colleagues, people that really aren't into yoga, about yoga and how it can really help you de-stress and focus, and you don't have to be super athletic. And it's just funny because even what you're showing me now, I'm I didn't even think that you could do it at your desk and still kind of see the benefits. That felt really good to do my little sitting here doing my role. So like,
right.
it makes me feel like relax, because I think, especially a lot of parents and a lot of individuals that are, running a business or working for someone else or working with children. I mean, it's like, no matter what your position is, you're either at a desk or you're somewhere where it could be like you're on your feet and then you have to stretch anyway. So I think,
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think, for viewers out there who have a little bit more time, I'll add to my resource list too, but just YouTube chair yoga. And you can do these all at your seat. So those 6 movements of the spine, I went through those really quickly, but I would do each one, hold it for 2 or 3 breaths. And let's see what else. And then you can do a figure 4. So like take one ankle and then at your desk, you can cross it over the opposite knee, like you're almost, sitting cross-legged or whatnot, but then fold your upper body over. And then you'll get a stretch on the outside of your thigh, and that helps with sciatica, any lower back pain. A lot of people I talk to who say, "Oh, I have such lower back pain." That's probably one of the first major things that I recommend as a yoga instructor. But then I talk to other people who are medical professionals, PTs, doctors, and they're like, "Oh, that's the same thing I would recommend." And it's just simply a yoga movement or just like a static hold. If this seated is hard, I like to lay on my back with my feet near a wall and then do that for the figure 4, or like crossing one ankle over on top of the opposite knee and put the other sole of your foot up on the wall. And that allows you to relax your hips more.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I know it's hard to explain, and I went through it really quick.
Well, and that's fine. Actually, I wanted to ask you. You said something about sciatica, lower back pain, and this is something that I've actually had colleagues of mine and friends actually suffer from. So, what is the basic thing? Because even I have lower back pain sometimes. So, what is like the most basic thing you can do if you're like sitting, or does it require like, extra stretch? Yeah, you mentioned it, but I didn't know what you meant.
Yes. Yeah. So, lots of lower back pain. The first couple postures I think of are this figure 4. So you can take it in, there's lots of variations. But I would say if you want a release in your hips, so you're not like tensing up your whole body, it would be laying down on your back and then scoot towards a wall. And so, I mean, I'm seated here, but I'll show you, or I'll talk about it. So you would, scoot your bottom towards like where the wall meets the floor. And then cross, while you're laying on your back, you're going to cross over one ankle on top of the other leg and then lift up that straight leg.
Okay.
So it's like so then you're going to put that sole of your foot up on the wall and then you're going to like kind of scoot as you will closer to the wall. And then you'll get that deep stretch on the outside of your hip. And that releases into the low back. It's all connected. So everything in our lower body is connected to the upper body, and it's that's the first one I would say is what I think of. And then something else, the 2 other ones that I think of are a forward fold. It's exactly as it sounds. You can do it seated or standing. And I am always big on do what feels best for you. If anything ever hurts, well, first of all, always consult with your medical professional, your team, your doctors, whatnot. But on top of that, do what works best for you. You don't have to fold over and touch the floor. Just releasing in that lower back and folding the body forward. Let's say you're standing, folding the body forward, and use yoga blocks and set them to the tall setting. And so that brings the floor closer to you. Or if you don't have yoga blocks, there's like an ottoman near me. I can see it. And I'm like, oh, just fold over and like put your hands on the ottoman. Or fold your upper body over and put your hands on like your quads or your shins. Whatever works for you, make it adaptable for your practice. It's your body. Everybody's different. And then the third one I would say is it's technically called Malasana squat for any yogis out there. But it's like that deep squat where like your body's pretty much making the letter M. So like your hips are all the way low. And then basically if you were to do a squat, but your knees are facing outward a little bit, and then your hips go all the way down towards the floor, it can be a little painful. I would say don't do anything that hurts. If it hurts, then I would do that same position, but you can do it on your back, on the floor, and that pose would be called, I think it's Happy Baby. Yeah. I almost said bug pose. It's not bug. It's Happy Baby. So you're laying on your back. Happy Baby is the best. If you have any indigestion, lower back pain, and I like to even practice that Malasana squat on the bottom of my stairs. Like I'll be putting my shoes on and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get in my deep squat right now as I'm putting my tennis shoes on. So I'll sit down and I can feel that deep stretch in my lower back as I'm putting my tennis shoes on. But yeah, for Happy Baby, lay on your back and then put your feet straight up in the air and then grab for the outsides of your feet, bend your knees, and then just grab for your feet. And then you can rock back and forth. It massages your spine. I'm saying all of these very, very quickly, but look up Happy Baby pose. Happy Baby pose, and then figure four and forward fold for anybody with lower back pain. And just type in yoga pose. Happy Baby would probably be the safest for anybody that's achy at all. Yeah, and if you have any, go ahead.
It's good to know. I said, good to know. I'm actually like writing these down mentally. And you know what, while we're sitting here, we had a good question come in. I'm hoping you can help. So I think back to the question we had and the comments we had about, the breathing techniques with children and trying to help them. Someone had a great question, said, do you have any recommendations for parents trying to learn a lot of these new techniques? Just like books.
Like a site resource?
Well, or a book. I mean, I know you're a big reader. I know that about
yes.
you. So is there any books that you would recommend, especially someone that's trying to like understand the techniques of how do I teach mindfulness to my family? Do you have any books that you would recommend?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I don't even know the title of it, but I can see the cover in my mind. And I don't want to be rude and pull up my phone right now, but I would say, gosh, there's anything, I would say kids are, as long as it's like, if you see it on a bookshelf at like your local independent bookstore and it's talking about yoga, I've seen them. I don't know any exact titles off the top of my head, but there's one that says like, let's do yoga as a family. Do that. I would say like, and yeah, and that's like, to me, double whammy. You're getting your kid to read, learn about the structure of a book, the title, the pages, reading from left to right, top to bottom, and they're learning about yoga. That's perfect. But anything, typically the books that I see for youngsters are involving yoga with animals because a lot of the poses are named after animals. Or it'll say, look at my family, we're practicing yoga, which is awesome. If you want to make it like a game, depending on how many kids you have in your family, I use this with classrooms. There's a yoga flashcards game. And so you can make it a family activity. I want to say it's called Yoga for the Classroom. So it is like an educator's tool, but you can get it for your family and for your kids. I think it's like 20 or 30 bucks. None of this is an ad or endorsed. These are just things I use. But I love that game.
For this advertising.
Yeah. And you don't even have, I mean, like now that I think about it, you don't even have to buy it if you don't want to. You could make it a game if your kids are a little older where they can fully communicate and whatnot. I would say like 6 or older. You could say, okay, I'm going to do a pose or guess the animal. And so as long as everybody in the family knows the animals and knows the names of the poses, you can like kind of do charades. So so
I love the fact, by the way, that you're just explaining that this is like a family thing, because I know a lot of parents like feel like, like they go to their kids' games, they do things with their kids, but they're not really like, it's hard to engage with their kid. And I think like family yoga, I just never thought that was going to be part of our conversation today. So I'm so happy to hear that, because maybe this will have parents thinking another way. How can I get my kids to be, do something active with me or something that's outside of their routine? And then they'll learn mindfulness in that, because I think what you said earlier was so important. I don't think I learned what mindfulness was until probably, like into my 20s, maybe early 20s even, because you don't really have a lot of exposure to that. At least I didn't. And I don't think a lot of kids, I can't speak for all the kids, but I would think that every kid knows what that is or even what it involves. So it's really cool to know that there's educational resources out there to kind of get your family to try something new.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world than when you and I were like in primary school years, I would guess. I mean, like I know so, but yeah, in state of Illinois, there's a social emotional learning like mandate now, especially coming out and re-entry after the pandemic. A lot of schools, I think Illinois as a whole, is making it a requirement for kids to have more social emotional time. So, parents out there, I know that academics are important, but especially during this time where kids were so dysregulated for so long, kids don't understand the gravity of what we all have just gone through. And so I know this is very cliche and very generalized, but having patience and talking about them with your kids. If you have listened to any podcasts with Esther Perel or Brene Brown, start there. Brene Brown is amazing, but she talked about how, when I got back to work, the school I was at went back in person in a hybrid fashion last October. And, I got back to work and I thought, man, this is so weird. Like, we're not talking about what we all just went through. And just like seeing people, like, I can't imagine how the kids are. We didn't take a second to say, someone in the class tell me a happy moment that happened with their family during the pandemic, and just really taking that time for them to reflect. I think it's gonna be so interesting to see how the kids turn out as adults, because I think we're really taking that time to invest in kids' social emotional skills, and they're going to be so much more well equipped than, I'm going to be honest, like just sharing my own life. It's like I'm getting older and I'm like, man, I got to figure out a whole bunch of stuff in terms of my social emotional skills. And thank God, I mean, like, I was like, I'm going to take this deep dive and do this yoga instruction thing. But yeah, they didn't teach us this when we were younger. And so adults out there, yeah, if you're a new parent or just like adult being like, I need to learn more about myself and where I'm at, and get in touch with my social emotional self, yoga and mindfulness is a great place to start. I think the scary part is just showing up. And that doesn't mean you have to go to a public class. You can start at home. You can start with YouTube. Just carving out that time and creating that routine for yourself is step one.
Yeah, absolutely. So well said. You couldn't put it better. I just love that. And we actually have a couple of viewers that just joined us. So I'm going to recap for those of you that just joined us. As you know, my name is Stephanie Garces-Donay. I'm the founding partner and owner of Garces Law Firm in Arlington Heights, where we help parents secure their legacy and help with their life's transitions, including protecting their children and their families. So I'm here with Jessica Scharf, who's an amazing friend of mine, but also a really respected certified yoga instructor and school psychologist that knows a lot about children, a lot about really the struggles that parents are facing. And so she's going to give us great advice today. She also does specializes in mindfulness for K through 12 and happens to also practice self-care and preaches about that, which we really appreciate. I know you've taught me a lot, even outside of this Pink Mike Leo Confessions episode, but she earned her yoga certificate at Yoga Buzz in St. Louis. And so she also teaches outdoor yoga classes. So the topic today is the benefits of yoga and mindfulness with Jessica Scharf, our expert in all of this today. So in case you've missed the last episode, we covered a very interesting topic. It was the sport of horseback riding and the local equestrian community. You can watch it right here on the Facebook page or on my YouTube channel, but it's really good. We have these episodes on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. and we welcome everyone to share and to attend. And if you have any questions about what we're talking about, feel free to drop the comments below. I love seeing your comments because it's important for us to engage outside of, the normal like Facebook role that you guys are doing every day. Hopefully you stop here and learn something that you didn't know before. So really quick to transition, we have a couple questions that came in from the audience. One of them is to you, Jess. They're asking, do you offer any private lessons or do you do any yoga parties?
Yes. So right now I'm pretty much doing exactly that. I'll do one-on-one sessions with adults or small group classes where, if a husband and wife is like, hey, we want to do private classes, but like just the two of us. I don't have my own space right now because I used to do the space or classes on the farm, but since we relocated, I don't have the farm anymore. So, with clients' permission, I would come to wherever their outdoor space is. But then the nice part is you have your own private space. And so we work on what you want to work on, either in one-on-one, a small group, or I do, birthdays, bridal showers, prenatal yoga, things like that. Any special occasions, if there's a retirement and the retiree loves yoga, that's the perfect gift. So,
Excellent.
specifically small parties at this time.
Awesome. What about, we have another question with that. What about like mom and child yoga? Are those classes available anywhere or with you? I mean, because I think sometimes people want to get their kid to come with them. So where would they do that?
Yes. So I listed some links on my website just for like introductory YouTube sessions. If they want to listen, I would say Chicagoland area is so vast that with your local park district, a lot of places will have mommy and me classes at the local park district, at your local YMCA, maybe at a local studio. A lot of places are starting to introduce yoga as like a special event. So kind of keep your eyes on the calendar at videos. Yoga, I offer yoga classes. It'll be usually then like mom's kids and like a couple of the friends, but I'm family yoga party as well. Kids' birthday and do like that. Family yoga is something that a lot of places are bringing up.
Okay, well, I think we might have gotten a little bit stuck with the technology, but no worries. Oh, there you are. Okay, perfect. Sometimes it freezes a little bit. Okay, so basically the park district seems to be a place where you could certainly go, and so that works too. But otherwise, it can contact you, which you already talked about, so which is great. But this is good to know. Again, I just hope that parents that are watching today really are thinking about yoga in a different way, mindfulness, and really practicing it. And you talked about it being a practice, because it truly is a practice. I know that I've started doing my own mindfulness during the pandemic, even a little bit before. You really start to realize how much benefits it has in your personal life and in your everyday with your family. So, they always say you can't take care of others if you don't take care of yourself first. And so that's how I feel about mindfulness and that sort of topic. So that's great. Well, where can they contact you, Jess, if anybody wants to contact you for lessons or for any other questions they have?
Yes, so you can contact me at D2E, that's down to earth, D2E Yoga STL at gmail.com. And then my website where you'll find all this information, including my contact and a list of resources about everything we've talked about today, is d2eyoga.weebly.com, listed there on the bottom of the screen. But yeah, if you have any questions, interested in instruction, or just want a little bit more direction about like what to do with this information, you can contact me at my email or on the website.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. You gave us so much more information that, I certainly didn't know before. And just to kind of wrap up everything together, it's mindfulness and your family and the pandemic. And there's so many things that we can benefit from. So just thank you for sharing your knowledge with all of the viewers. I always love empowering everyone so they can understand what self-care means and what it means for your family, which is really important. So also thank you to the viewers for all your questions. I always appreciate you guys and your support here on Pink Mike. And as always, if you have any questions regarding retirement planning or how you protect your legacy, how do I leave a guardian for my children if something ever happens to me, these are really, really important topics to discuss now. And you want to start now, sooner than later is better, because I always say later never comes. So make sure that you guys are thinking about that. I always cherish the opportunity to work with any of our viewers if you need help with anything, but I invite you to join me here next week for our next Pink Mike Legal Confessions episode. And as always, our recordings are on the Facebook page and YouTube. So again, thanks, Jess, so much for your time. And I look forward to attending your next yoga class.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. It was a pleasure. And everybody take care of yourselves out there.
Thanks so much. Take care, guys.